into Kenya's Big Four projects.
With great pleasure that I can announce today that the UK will provide £1 million of UK funding for the technical support to structure a pipeline of projects for private investment in Kenyan infrastructure, the things that really matter to ordinary Kenyans like railways, roads and housing.
Talking about the economy and the rigors, or rather, the economic and how it has reacted to matters of COVID-19, the statistics indicate that our positivity rate as a country stands at 14.2%. Now, Kenyans are impressed by the ongoing infrastructure development across the country, according to a survey released on Tuesday by TIFE Research. Now, the survey, which was conducted from 1,500 respondents, however, found out that a majority of Kenyans are dissatisfied with the rising cost of living. Get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, and we are live and we welcome your feedback. Now over to matters health. Is that the government is now turning its attention to the war on non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, stroke and heart illnesses, said to contribute at least 39% of deaths countrywide. The Ministry of Health has now launched a 4-year strategic plan detailing on how to prevent and control the prevalence of these diseases.
The Ministry of Health and its partners Tuesday in Nairobi launched the National Strategic Plan for the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases. The 4-year plan runs to the year 2025. Chief Administrative Secretary for Health, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, uploaded the strategic plan, stressing on its significance in approaching non-communicable diseases that have accounted for 39% of deaths nationally from the year 2014 to 2018.
This launch is indeed timely, as our country is experiencing an epidemiological transition from infectious diseases towards non-communicable diseases. NCDs such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, chronic respiratory diseases, mental illnesses, epilepsy, sickle cell disease, amongst others, represent a leading threat to human health and development.
The health official further added that tobacco use and unhealthy eating habits are some of the trigger factors for the rise in the non-communicable diseases.
And the rising burden of non-communicable diseases is largely attributable to the 5 shared risk factors that are influenced by economic transition and rapid urbanization. These include tobacco use, consumption of unhealthy diets, insufficient physical activity, and excessive use of alcohol.
Caroline Juguna, who is the country director for Program for Appropriate Technology in Health, PATH, said her organization will participate in the national strategy by covering areas such as early detection of the diseases, as well as public awareness and provision of palliative care.
As PATH, we are truly delighted to have contributed and participated in the development of this NCD strategy of 2021-22 to 2025-26. Our mission as an organization is to advance health equity through innovation and partnership, with one of our strategic priorities being increased health system capacity and resilience. Now, we realize this with partnering with governments and like-minded organizations aimed to increase capacity, realize equitable and accessible quality care.
Now we cross over to the sporting arena, where the Kenya Sevens finished 9th overall in the Tokyo Olympics after beating Ireland 22-0 in the position play-off this morning. Shujaa got their tries from Johnston Olindi, who added a conversion. Jacob Oje, Willie Ambaka and Daniel Tabu. Now the men's final will see defending champions Fiji play against New Zealand at noon, while Great Britain face Argentina in the bronze medal match at 11:30 a.m. Remember, all these details in regard to what is happening and as far as news is concerned is available on our website. We will be looking, or rather following up, on a few stories this morning or during this day. So KMPDU is to host community and engagement exercise from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. in Mathare. We'll be keeping tabs on that, as well as looking at, what is happening as far as our security apparatus operations are concerned. This follows, the arrest of the prime suspect in the murder of the female student from Kiriri Women's University of Science and Technology, where the body of the victim, Christine Ambani, who is said to be the girlfriend of the suspect, was found in a guest room in Githurai. Quick take. You can always find this on our website, www.kbc.co.ke. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing.
Nissan Serena ndio hii, na unaweza kuwa wewe ndio tunapikia simu. Kodi ya Nissan Serena ni NS, alafu kisha kwenye amount ni 50 bob. Hii Nissan Serena tunakupatia na shilingi 50.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo nunca.
If Florentia revealed everything to my father, then that woman is very dangerous.
Yes, she's dangerous. Oh no, I can't do that, Ceci. Ivan will never come back. He will never forgive us. And that's why you should just forget him.
Where were you?
I just went to tell Juliana and Eloisa about what happened.
You were not supposed to tell anybody about what happened just yet. I wanted to wait until we had more information, Amaya.
Juliana also has the right to know what's going on. Mr. Mauro is her father as well.
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
Hayawi huwa mbiu ya mgambo imelia, na kwa kawaida ikilia kuna jambo.
Mgambo uliopo hapa ni rumba kavacha, odemba na sukus.
Tutakupromoshea midundo motomoto ya Afrika, iwe kutoka kaskazini, kusini, magharibi na hata mashariki.
Rumba is here in your living room.
Na popote ulipo.
This is Bridge of Congo.
Nzambe ya sambe la kati, ako sambe la nani.
Right here on KBC Channel 1. Where?
This is where it all began. As the mother of broadcasting in Kenya, you can trust KBC to bring you authentic news and programs to your living room. As KBC, we take pride in our unrivaled heritage as Kenya's trusted national broadcaster. Commanding over 92% digital television signal coverage of our country, 23 radio services that cut across our entire language spectrum, a national, regional and international digital presence backed by the most experienced and top-notch broadcast professionals in the industry.
A very good evening to you.
The new look Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is truly ahead of the pack. Turn to the mother of broadcasting in Kenya for stories that resonate with our identity, our aspirations as a people united in purpose. Real stories of hard work, of passion, of creativity, of big dreams. Stories that cement our nationhood. Stories that bring us together as one. We take pride in our shared heritage and destiny. KBC, informing, educating and entertaining Kenyans as one nation. KBC. Kenya's listening. Kenya's watching.
This week on Zurura, a tiny fish making a huge impact.
Rastani Ebola Argentina.
Fashion on Kenya's lakeside region.
With the one and only.
And a dance to keep the culture alive. That's coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Ndo ile Lake Victoria pale ninaiona vizuri sana.
And at 6 minutes past the top of the hour, time for our fast traffic link this Wednesday morning. And just what you're seeing right behind the screen is what is going to be our focus this Wednesday. This is a file image of Kenyatta Avenue, and I'll be showing you how this area has actually progressed. This has been spearheaded by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services in regards to what they've been doing just to make sure the city of Nairobi looks better, make it easy for pedestrians, as well as those that are using vehicles, both public as well as private. So what they were doing at this particular area is actually the putting up of the non-motorized transport system. Like I mentioned, this is a file image of how Kenyatta Avenue looked like. It was so difficult just trying to navigate in between these areas, especially for pedestrians as well as motorcycles. This is why you're seeing from this particular image how they're moving in between the roads, which has been put aside or designated for vehicles, both public as well as private. But this is how the area now looks like. This is actually how Kenyatta Avenue looks like. Just from this particular image, clearly seeing that there are well-designated lanes. We have the major road, which has been put in place for vehicles. We have the inner lane there, or the lane at the center, which has been put in place for cyclists. And then the other one, it is for pedestrians, what we call the non-motorized transport system. And this begins all the way from the roundabout, just as you leave areas around Valley Road, coming through Kenyatta Avenue, going all the way inside the city center. This also roadworks were extended up until areas around Mwindimbingu Street as well as Wabere Street. And the major reason as to why NMS was doing this was actually to reduce on the traffic flow, because the concept is still the same. When you have the major road being used by both vehicles, pedestrians as well as cyclists, then that leads to heavy traffic flow, because it simply means traffic police have to constantly keep stopping vehicles just to make sure that pedestrians can perhaps move from one side of the road to the other, or even just walk on that particular road. But when you have designated lanes like this one in particular, then it just simply means that we have pedestrians on their own lane, we have cyclists on their own lane, and vehicles on their own lane, just as how it is on this particular image. This has actually been going on not just around this area, but there's also been some ongoing works around Kirinyaga Road to also ensure that the same is put inside, or better still, around every area in the city center or in Nairobi city. So let's just quickly check the traffic flow, try to see if at all this is serving its purpose, because the major reason as to why this was put in place was actually to reduce on the traffic flow, just as how I've explained to you. And this is how Kenyatta Avenue looks like, at least around the roundabout, in as much as traffic has begun to slightly build up there, but altogether manageable kind of traffic just on that specific lane as you get to branch off from the roundabout, heading all the way through Uhuru Highway before you get to the University roundabout, is where it's really getting thick there. But at least altogether around the roundabout, slightly as you leave the roundabout, going all the way through Kenyatta Avenue again. Also as you leave areas around Valley Road, all the way from Ngong Road through that same stretch as you head over to the city center. Not bad, moving at a very, very fast pace. So again, it simply means if at all you're living from areas around Ngong, Valley Road, coming all the way
way to the city center. And also, if at all you're leaving areas around perhaps Langata Road via the Nyayo Stadium, coming through Uhuru Highway, branching off to Kenyatta Avenue, and also leaving city center through the roundabout, still going through the same way, not so bad for you. This is actually the best time for you to do that, because look at that, moving at a very, very fast pace, hence that green color, which is a clear indicator of that. As you leave the roundabout, as you come to the city center, that is just where things are really the traffic weather is beginning to slightly build up, but again, altogether still a manageable kind of traffic. This continues all the way inside to the city center as you get to branch off also to those areas which I was talking about earlier, areas around Wabera Street as well as Mwindi Mbingu, where there was also a bit of recarpeting of those two specific roads. But away from that, still coming to matters traffic, not so bad this morning hours. So again, this is just really the best time for you to leave your houses if at all you're coming to the city center, or even leaving CBD, going to those areas that I've mentioned. But again, also traffic police are usually always stationed up early on most of these major roundabouts, especially on these roundabouts that branches off from Uhuru Highway. Key among them is Kenyatta Avenue, which is our focus. We shall also be looking at Haile Selassie as well as University Way roundabout. So traffic police are usually stationed up and early around this roundabout to try and see how best they can control traffic, given the fact that this is one of those very, very busy roundabouts here in Nairobi, and because also they get to branch off to major roads like Kenyatta Avenue on that side, Uhuru Highway as you leave areas around Mombasa Road, as well as also Uhuru Highway as you head over all the way to University Way, and again Kenyatta Avenue on the other section as you head over to inside the city center there. But again, not forgetting the fact that around this area there's still some ongoing roadworks, and this is in regards to the expressway which passes across this area, which has also seen some sections of this road being closed to the public there because of that construction of that expressway. So again, that is a clear reason of why we perhaps see traffic the way we would see it. And this is where I was saying, if at all you're coming to the city center or leaving CBD this morning, this is clearly the best time for you to do that, because look at this. This has just changed right now. Around this section, as you leave the roundabout, it was not the way it is right now. It was just green all through, moving at a very swift pace, but this has changed this very minute. As you leave Kenyatta Avenue, actually coming through the roundabout, things are getting thick there. In fact, just at a standstill, not moving at all. And actually that has continued all the way up to that section of the roundabout just before you leave Kenyatta Avenue there. So again, also it just simply means that perhaps at this now, or rather at this time, we really do not need to look at any alternative routes, because in as much as on some sections it's really heavy kind of traffic there, but at least in major parts of the road it's moving at a very, very fast pace. And this is how the road looks like this morning around Kenyatta Avenue. This is actually going to be our focus today. This is the image of Kenyatta Avenue, and we shall also be looking at what will be happening around the Haile Selassie Avenue roundabout as well as the University Way roundabout. All these roundabouts get to branch off from Uhuru Highway, and this is where we shall be focusing on them this morning.
From traffic, before we continue, I will tell you of a story where a 90-kilogram bag of potatoes costs 500 shillings. That is equivalent to 2 plates of chips. Good morning. My name is Victor Lo. Right now, it's time for in the headlines, what's making the headlines in the last 24 hours here in our local dailies. And I have the Standard newspaper and the Star newspaper. Let me start with the Standard. Revealed how NASA will share millions. This is after ODM wrote to the political parties, registered political parties, on how the political parties fund will be shared. And now it's revealed that the money here stands at 489 million shillings from the political parties fund, and ODM will get 55% share. That is equivalent to 187 million shillings. Wiper Democratic Movement will get 20.6%, equivalent to 70 million shillings. ANC will get 12.9% of the share. That is 43 million shillings. And Ford Kenya will get 10.5%, that equivalent to 36 million shillings. And lastly, Chama Cha Mashinani will get 0.9%, translating to million shillings. Now, 4 estranged NASA partners will share 153 million shillings out of the 489 from the political parties fund after ODM had a change of heart. Even as Raila yesterday stormed the president's backyard with an eye firmly fixed on 2022. All right, there you have it. And now there are details there of the autopsy report from the late Kangogo. An autopsy on Corporal Kangogo, the policewoman accused of killing 2 men, including her colleague in Nakuru, revealed that she died of a single gunshot to the head that entered her body in the right chin and exited on the left side of the head. That is the autopsy report as per the report which was done by the government pathologist, that is Dr. Johansen Odur. Okay. Still on the Standard. Now, when crooks plot to get rich very quickly, but don't plan how to spend the loot. So many suspects have signed their arrest warrants by flashing their wealth online. It's an interesting story there that you can take a read on and just get to know how some of these people in the Wild West, when God papa wearing and all that, putting on whatever they can, brandishing guns and just messing away with loot, but then splash their money online, and that's how they sign their arrest warrants. Okay, so this is it. Ford Kenya now calls for meeting to decide its fate in Ireland. This is just a day after Wiper had their National Executive Committee meeting. Now, Ford Kenya faction led by Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula will hold a parliamentary group meeting, that is PG, Tuesday next week, to decide its fate in the sinking National Super Alliance coalition. The party called off a PG scheduled for Monday after failing to raise quorum. Now, the Lion Party is set to follow in the footsteps of 2 other NASA partners and parties and exit the minority coalition in Parliament. That is what is making there. So next week on Tuesday, they'll have their parliamentary group meeting to decide their fate in the NASA coalition. All right. So this is it. ODM to share funds with the NASA coalition partners as well is still in politics. And according to the Political Parties Act, a party gets to get no funding if it does not secure at least 5% of the total number of votes at the preceding general election. Now, the sharing of the amount from 3 financial years is tabulated based on votes attributed to parliamentary seats by the 5 National Super Alliance partners, that is Wiper, ODM, Amani National Congress, ANC, Ford Kenya, and Chama cha Mashinani. Now, Kalonzo Musyokas will receive 70 million from the 2017-2018, 2018-2019, and 2019-2020, while ANC of Musalia Mudavadi will get 43.9 million shillings. All right. And lastly, before I give you to Jen, Raila courts Mount Kenya. Bloc kicks off unity rallies countrywide. That is the rallies across the country will be headlined by President Kenyatta and himself. ODM leader Raila Odinga's tour of Murang'a County yesterday was one of his many attempts to woo the central voting bloc ahead of the next year's general election. Although he's yet to officially throw himself into the presidential ring for 2022, his heightened political activities lately have raised eyebrows, and yesterday's event points to his desire to win over President Uhuru Kenyatta's staff. So before yesterday, questions had been raised by, why despite the handshake with President Kenyatta, the duo are yet to hit the ground running. And now reports have it that from next week or in the next 2 weeks or so, they will start countrywide tour to popularize handshake and any other factor therein. So that is as far as Raila's political move is concerned. But then now, something to talk about. And artists are happy with the state's move to exempt ringtones from excise duty. Now, artists have welcomed the state's move to exempt ringtones from excise duty. The move will see artists earn more from the use of their songs as ringtones. Now, an event dubbed Skiza Thanksgiving Luncheon held yesterday by Royal Media Services chairperson SK Masharia It attracted hundreds of musicians and politicians. So most of the guests arrived there, and now it's time for them to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Jane.
Welcome once again to the program. This still is Good Morning Kenya. At KBC Channel 1 is the official station handle. At Victor Olo, at Jane Wambuisa, you can find us individually on Twitter. And just to get right into the headlines, a copy of the People Daily as well as the Daily Nation. But starting with the People Daily, most of these stories, you've actually just touched on them. The first story here on the header being the vicious fight over Ruto's running mate, as Mount Kenya politicians believe the post will solidify their 6 million votes, but others say the region has had its fair share of top leadership position and should now opt out of the race. Is that practical in any way? Well, we'll be coming to those details in a bit. Moving on to the next story on the front page is in regards to President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit to the UK as he co-chairs the conference in regards to education with the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. But now a major boost as Uhuru bags 20 billion for his legacy projects. We'll be coming to that story in a bit. And coming to the main read here on the front page of the People Daily, Raila makes his mountain pitch. Is it a charm offensive, where he was accompanied by a host of people? And just getting to the details of this particular story, as Raila made his 2022 poll case to the mountain. He was yesterday in the Mount Kenya region, where he used a highly choreographed event for musicians in central Kenya's heartland, where he was going to test the waters for 2022 presidential campaign support. Now, he was accompanied by his close family members. There are also several ODM governors and MPs as well, and were hosted by business mogul SK Macharia at his Moranga home. And the function mainly was used by his allies to help him explain to the people that he is a friend of the Mount Kenya people. But what was clear was that he was accorded a grand welcome by the people. And considering past events and past instances where he has been to the Mount Kenya region, he was given a grand welcome as opposed to the hostile reception he has gotten in past elections. And from his message, it was clear that this is what has been captured on this particular paper, that the region owes him and his family a debt for having twice supported leaders from the mountains to clinch the presidency. They go on to say that this platform was also used for criticism of Deputy President William Ruto's presidential ambition and the stake for the Mount Kenya vote. And this is officially the start of his countrywide tours to continue to unite the country, as he started with the Mount Kenya region. And of course, so many people have had so much to say about this visit, Vic. And of course, artists have also had a lot to say about that. We will be coming to that in a bit. But just to touch on the legacy, when it comes to this story that has been featured here on the front page, major boost as Uhuru bags 20 billion for legacy projects. That's a story that has been captured on page 15. But before we get to that, there's still a piece here that is linked to that, where Uhuru woos investors to take up 10 public-private projects. So he was invited to the United Kingdom as co-hosting this particular forum that is ongoing, but he also took this opportunity to encourage investors to tap into the emerging business opportunities in Kenya, saying that Kenya remains to be one of the most attractive business destinations in Africa. And he went on to showcase 10 investment opportunities that are worth over $5 billion under the public-private partnership framework, which he says are a major area that they can come in to invest and help grow the Kenya's economy, and also for them as investors, saying that we ought to go this direction if we want to deepen this cooperation when it comes to foreign Commonwealth development projects. So that has been captured there. On page 7, he also highlighted the fact that they could also consider venturing into the fintech business here in Kenya, which is thriving, and of course as part of the new innovations that we are seeing in this day and time. Vic.
All right. So, still on that, excuse me, the autopsy report of the late Kangogo, who died of a single gunshot in the head, that's to the head, according to government chief pathologist Johansen Odur. Now, the family of police officer accused of killing two men say that they are satisfied with the findings of the government pathologist. An autopsy on Corporal Caroline Kangogo, the policewoman accused of killing two men, revealed she died of a gunshot to the head. According to the chief government pathologist Johansen Odur, the officer died of a single gunshot that entered her body at the right chin and exited on the left side of the head. So let me quote what Johansen said. The gunshot entry was contact, meaning the gun was on the skin because there was a bullet hole and areas of burning called muscle imprint. Now, following concerns that she may have been killed elsewhere and her body dumped at her parents' home in Nyawa, Elgeyo Marakwet, Johansen Odur further says that lab tests will establish the correct situation. So that is as far as that is concerned. Remember last week, her parents went to the health facility to take the body for burial, but then the government had to halt that until the autopsy is done, and now the family say that they are satisfied with that report. Jen.
And just to add on to that, during that 3-hour autopsy that was done, it was witnessed by her close family members. That was her father, her mother, and brother, who will declined to address the media after this. But now DCI, according to the pathologist, he said that he did not make a conclusion as to whether she committed suicide or was killed. But he did refute the fact that the incident happened at the crime, and allegations that she might have been killed elsewhere and her body transported, he did refute that narrative. He went on to say that DCI will also soon release more conclusive ballistic reports on the gun to verify as to whether it was the gun that was used to kill Constable John Ongweno and businessman Peter Ndigwa, whom she was suspected of having murdered. But Vic, just to also tie that story to this other piece here, regarding the murder of Christine Ambani. So cops arrested this young man, innocent, over the alleged killing of a university girl. He is the prime suspect in the July 12th murder of 23-year-old Christine Ambani. So he was arrested yesterday in Ruai. Innocent Kalio Makoha, who is alleged to be the deceased boyfriend. 2 weeks ago, he is suspected to have allegedly murdered Ambani, whose body was found at a hotel room with deep stab wounds on the neck. Now, according to what the police have gotten so far, it is said that he, after committing this crime, allegedly, he logged into the family's WhatsApp group, posing as Christine, and sent messages asking the family to refund her boyfriend, now innocent, 87,000 Kenya shillings, money that he had spent to settle her in college. This happened, the family were a bit caught off guard. The messages continued. He sent a photo of the deceased while dressed in the same clothes that she was found wearing at the morgue. There was communication between Christine, whom they thought was Christine, but it was said to be innocent, who was posing as her, between on the WhatsApp group, demanding this 87,000, which went on for a few days. But just looking at a bit of history on Makoha, is that he had earlier been arrested in connection with the murder of his brother, the wife, and their 1-year-old baby by setting their house on fire. And according to the police, the matter was investigated by the Mumias DCI and the file forwarded to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And however, there were orders for public inquest, but before the inquest started, it is said that Makoha attacked his grieving family members and destroyed property. However, this case, he was remanded for a few days at the Kakamega GK prison, but the case was again withdrawn. That is where we are when it comes to the latest in regards to the killing of Christine Ambani.
Wow, it's a tough situation there.
It's a lot, man.
Let's just take a breather kidogo too and tell you how much is a plate of chips. You're a fan.
Waru.
How much is a plate of chips?
Well, it depends with the eatery.
All right.
Or where you are. There are places it goes for 50 bob. There are places it goes for 20 bob. There are places it goes by the size. There are places it goes for 100 bob.
Now we know where you.
There are places it goes for 150 kwendelea juu. So it depends with the place that you are at.
Okay. So the price of a plate of chips in some of the fast food restaurants chains about 250 on average. But a bag of potatoes, in the country's highest producing area of Elgeyo Marakwet is 500 shillings.
So sahani mbili ya chipo.
Sahani mbili ya chipo is equivalent to 90 kilogram bag of waru, which is equivalent to 2 plates of chips. So after deduction of harvesting and loading charges, which are 150 bob respectively, the farmer ends up with 350 shillings.
Mi nakwambia waru is a love language.
So farmers from Lelan and Kapiego in Marakwet West Sub-County, as well as those from Chepkorio in Keyo South who had quit pyrethrum for quick and huge money from potatoes, are now counting huge losses as middlemen dictate prices. I wish we had Regina here. The issue of middlemen in business is affecting a lot of business across the country. I mean, at the farm gate, you'll take a product, for example, potatoes, for example. Then they drive all the way to Nairobi and sell a bag at 5,000 shillings.
After getting it for 500 bob.
At 500 shillings. And you, as a farmer, you get 350 shillings to, and all that. So it's business. So let's do business and pay the bills by taking a break, and we come back. We still
talk
continue.
About warus.
We talk. We'll be right back.
Nissan Serena ndio hii, na unaweza kuwa wewe ndio tunapikia simu. Kodi ya Nissan Serena ni NS, alafu kisha kwenye amount ni 50 bob. Hii Nissan Serena tunakupatia na shilingi 50.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Yaani nyinyi mkiona wanawake mnawadharau, ndo kazi yenu hii, sio?
Je, kama hawa watu wangekutendea unyama? You are supposed to be on my side. My side.
Usimfuate huyo, wale ndio wao walioamua kufuata kiza. Nifuate mimi.
Wampeleka wapi?
Sitaki kidudu mtu yoyote aingilie katika kazi yangu.
Lakini Pili ni mamake.
some bright color socks. Time out, but me now go with no flip flops. Cause none now me some mood. Me just a walk and a move. Go make we rock and groove.
It was a kiss tonight. Girlfriend I request the love cause she said feel right.
If you don't do me right, somebody's gonna get in line.
A woman like you, oh I don't deserve it. Here we go, here we go again. Here we go, here we go again. Here we go, here we go again. Here we go again.
Welcome back to the program, and before we continue talking about Wamboi's love language, which is Waru, let's take a quick look at what is happening on our roads in terms of traffic. As I had promised you earlier that today we'll be checking on what is happening on 3 roads, that is Kenyatta Avenue, Haile Selassie University Way, all these roundabouts that get to branch off from the major Uhuru Highway. And right now we check at University Way. Now this is simply because a section of this road has been closed, and this is to necessitate that construction of the expressway, and this actually has been going on for the past 2 weeks or so, again for the purpose of that expressway which is coming all the way from Mombasa Road areas around Lolongo, cutting through these particular areas, going all the way up to James Gishuru around Wayaki Way. Actually that expressway is expected to be complete and opened up to the public by early next year. Right now, what is still happening is construction of that expressway, which again has resulted to heavy traffic, especially around these areas, beginning all the way from Mombasa Road. Just to show you of how some section of the route has been closed, is just actually this is what is happening around this area, and this comes all the way from areas around Mombasa Road, cutting through Bunyala roundabout, going all the way past Kenyatta Avenue, coming through University Way, going all the way to Wayaki Way. So this is how some section of the route has been closed, and again, like I mentioned, to necessitate that construction of the expressway. So let's quickly check the traffic flow around that area, trying to see how all of this is affecting as well as impacting traffic altogether. And this is just how the University roundabout looks like this morning. Very interesting in regards to the fact that the area has been, some sections like I mentioned have been closed. We really don't see much of the heavy kind of traffic around this roundabout. Also around this morning hour, just at that 7 minutes past 7 a.m. what you'd expect to see, given the fact that University Way just in itself, without the construction, is one of those busy roundabouts, given the fact that it branches off to major roads as well as some slip roads. One among them is University Way on that section as you get to branch off to Nyerere, as well as State House Road, going all the way to the sections or areas around Valley Road there. Also branching off through Uhuru Highway as you head over to areas around Kenyatta, Haile Selassie Nyayo Stadium roundabout, all the way to Mombasa Road, as well as branching through Uhuru Highway, also going all the way to areas around Wayaki Way, past Westlands on that side. And again, coming from University on that section, just slightly past Anniversary Towers as you leave areas around the Globe roundabout, coming through the same section before you get to this particular roundabout. So again, just from that clearly shows you how it is one of those busy roundabouts as well as busy roads. In terms of traffic, not that bad. So also what that means is that we do not need to look at any alternative routes, at least as of now. And that is how the section of University looks like in terms of traffic around this morning hour. So perhaps in our next link-up segments, we'll try to look at alternative routes, if at all there'll be heavy kind of traffic on these roads that you're focusing on this Wednesday.
Thank you, Doreen. All right. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Mount Kenya Top Guns endorse Raila for 2022. Odinga declares birth of new dawn spearheaded by him and Uhuru. Handshake team to traverse country from next week. Now, ODM leader faces off against DP Ruto for central vote block. All right, Mount Kenya top guns endorsed Raila for 2022. Yesterday, they were in Murang'a at a function which was hosted by SK Macharia. And still on the front page of the Star newspaper, Caroline Kangogo died of single gunshot wound to the head, according to an autopsy report which was done yesterday by the chief government pathologist, that is Dr. Johansen Odur. All right. So still on that, pretty nothing new here. ODM to give NASA affiliate parties 152 million shillings as a part of the political parties fund shared amongst the NASA parties, and that is part of the deal. All right, police arrest activist in demo over death of girl. Postmortem showed Jennifer Michelle died of heart failure. All right, police yesterday arrested activists during demonstrations to demand justice for a child who died under unclear circumstances at a school in Kayole. Now, the activists say that Jennifer Michelle, an 8-year-old grade 2 pupil, was beaten by a teacher for answering a question wrong. Now, the school denies the wrongdoing. So that is how it's done and how it happened. Still on that story of Kangogo still continues there. And Jen, this is a sad story here as well. It's so sad that the first 2 pages of the Star newspaper just paints a grim picture of what's happening in our society. Another story here, prominent Naivasha farmer dies by suicide at home, and police are now probing the matter. A prominent trader from Longonot in Naivasha died after jumping into an underground water tank. So they're still probing why it happened and the reason as to why that gentleman had to take away his own life. And again now, possessed, quote unquote, mom strangles 2 sons, then surrenders to cops. She says dark spirits possessed her, leading to kill her children. And according to the neighbors who, you know, of this lady, the lady appeared to be very much okay. Nothing happened. She did not show any sign of depression or disturbance for that kind of sort. And later in the evening, she just did her job, bathed the kids, prepared them pretty well, and then she just went berserk. One by one, she took the first one, strangled him. After she was done, she went ahead and picked another one and strangled him again. After that, what did she do? She surrendered to Kabete police station. She surrendered herself to police station, Kabete police station.
I lack words, but this also goes to the piece that we also had on the papers yesterday in regards to a report that was done by a special unit at the DCI that sounded the alarm on the high rates of crime, and particularly yesterday they were focusing on suicide, given there have been about 483 cases of suicide that have been recorded in the past 3 months alone, and these are the ones that have been recorded. So you can imagine how many other cases go unreported or unrecorded for that matter. And given we've had 483 suicide cases in the past 3 months alone, which is almost 3 times the figure of the cases that were recorded by DCI in 2019. But this goes to speak about what people are going through, Vic. You know, just that 1 year that 2020 was, it just discombobulated so many people, it disorganized so many lives, it ended so many lives, and that is also a period where so many lives were also brought into the world. So when we talk about conversations around depression, this goes, and mental health, wellness, it clearly shows it is a problem, and a problem that needs addressing before it blows out of control. So, you know, I cannot speak much about that particular case involving the mother and her 2 children. I do not know what was going through her mind, what was her situation, or the kid's situation.
Apparently, according to the story here, she had apparently argued that that night with her husband, and efforts were being made to reconcile them. So neighbors said that her mother-in-law had traveled from Lugari to Nairobi to help her and her husband, Alex Miheso, sort out their domestic differences. Now, the session didn't go well, and new disagreements arose. Now, it said that Diana and Miheso later saw off her mother-in-law and her husband left. The suspect went back home and strangled her son. One is 4 years old and another one is 2 years old. And after doing all that, she left the bodies on the sofa. And quite interestingly, police said that they found the body on the sofa, but what she almost went for the young one who is 5 months old, but what stopped her from doing that is that the 5-month-old baby started screaming uncontrollably, and she said that there's a point that she realized that she did a mistake and she stopped. She woke up.
So all this stems from disagreements with the partner. Chances are.
And police are saying that they are treating her with a lot of caution because it's not the DCIO said that they're treating her with a lot of care to ascertain.
This changes the whole narrative.
Yeah,
I mean,
perhaps she was disturbed or kind of thought. It was intentional. So
why do we take out our anger on our children when we have disagreements with our partners? I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right. So Raila kicks off Central Tour ahead of 2022 ballot. Still also captured there pretty well on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. You can take a look at that story. Yesterday he was in Murang'a County, hosted by, of course, SK Macharia. Raila said that from here we will go to Nyanza next week, then Western, followed by Coast and all parts of the country, with Uhuru Kenyatta standing on one side and myself on the other side. And that is as from next week. Jen.
Now, just to tie this to a story that I already touched on in regards to our president's tour to the UK, here they go on to add the fact, which wasn't captured here on the People Daily, but on the Daily Nation, they add the COVID-19 angle, where Kenya is set to receive some 400,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine from the UK. And it is expected that the donation of at least 400,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be shipped to Kenya in less than 10 days to boost the country's vaccination drive in an effort to keep the vaccination on course and get to the targets that the country was hoping. So far, there has been 1,673,272 doses that have been administered, and this also has been tied to the 20 billion that the government is the UK is expected to announce the 20 billion government and private partnership investment in Kenya. That particular piece that has been that was missing from the People Daily, but all other stories that we have talked about here have also been mentioned here. Most of the stories that have been on the other paper, on the front page of the Daily Nation, there's the particular piece concerning Kagongo's death, and which still remains to be a mystery. Here they go on to talk of also another story concerning a man named Naftali, who is asking how his wife Jane Curry died at the Mbagathi hospital. Again, Victor, as you rightfully put it, so most of the front pages through the third page have a lot of death cases that are reported in our country. Suicide, murder, that is what actually has been featured on this first 2 pages here of the Daily Nation. Moving on to the Raila Moi ticket on the cards as ODM leader weighs in 2022 options. There's also a piece here that goes on to talk of how it is a rat race for DP Ruto's running mate for the 2022 general elections. Stories that we have touched on in a bit. Mount Kenya leaders endorse Raila for presidency. Again, more than 50 governors and elected politicians were graced the occasion where Raila Odinga was wooing the Mount Kenya region. Wiper to get Lion's share of funds to NASA affiliate parties. Most of these stories we have already touched on them. Now this one was of interest that happened yesterday. Matul gang makes off with guns, money in broad daylight in a bank heist. Police in Machakos County were last evening looking for 5 armed gangsters who robbed Matu Town Equity Bank branch and stole guns from the officers that were guarding it. The robbers were armed with pistols and are believed to have earlier positioned themselves near the bank where they monitored movements of the 2 policemen before hitting and pouncing on them. So the gang is said to have first attacked the female officer who was at the entrance before making their way into the bank hall where they confronted the other police officer, and this is according to a CCTV footage that was obtained by this particular daily. So after overpowering the police officers, the gang ordered everyone in the banking hall, including dozens of students who were queuing to deposit school fees, checks, and many other deposits, to lie down. At least 5 customers are said to have reported to have lost money during the process. An unknown amount of money was taken from the bank, from one of the bank tellers. The gang is said to have escaped on foot through a nearby residential estate after a shootout with police who responded to an alarm. So far, Equity Bank has issued a statement confirming the robbery, adding that no one was injured and the bank's value was not yet assessed. So they are yet to put out the figures in regards to how much money was lost. But you know, when it comes to money in banks, it is insured, so they will claim it from the central bank. But this goes also to speak to cases of insecurity, Vic, you know. And if you got to see that CCTV footage, you could see how they easily overpowered the cops. How they easily overpowered the cops and took possession of those guns. And therein comes the question of the safety of now the people that were in that particular case. Every other money that was in the institution was insured, but what of the lives of the people? Goes back to how our even training of our officers in such cases. But we wait for more information. Situational awareness and how to combat, and probably these people, they just did their homework pretty well. Very well. And they ambushed the police officer, because when you find only one manning the main entrance and probably another one inside the banking hall, then they probably did their homework. And according to reports, is like the 2 AK-47 rifles that were lost in the hands of the police officers were all, you know, loaded with 30 rounds of ammunition each. So you can imagine 2 guns lost and 60 rounds of ammunition also lost. That's dangerous. Luckily, no lives were lost. No lives were lost. So police are saying that they're still pursuing the culprits. And by the way, they'll not go far. At this time and age, they'll not go far. They'll not go far. But I think guys are watching too many movies. Money Heist ilichanganisha watu. It's like an evil spirit. One day you'll find yourself getting a room temperature that you did not bargain for. All right. So this is it. DP Ruto set for 2-day visit to Mount Kenya East. The vote, the drive to woo Mount Kenya voters. Now the Deputy President William Ruto is set for a tour of Mount Kenya East. That's as the 2022 elections campaigns gather momentum. The DP is expected to market the bottom-up economic model he's promising to use to transform the lives of Kenyans. So on Saturday, he will begin his campaign blitz in the expansive Tharaka Nithi County, where he has lined up a series of activities that will see him traverse several constituencies. And on Sunday, he will pitch camp in Embu County, where he will visit 2 constituencies, that is Mbeere South and Runyenjes, where he will preside over fundraiser, attend church function, as well as roadside rallies, and then get a brief on the membership drive for the UDA party. So the fight for the Mount Kenya votes is still on. Jen, there's a story here. Court orders landlord to refund 11,500 deposit to tenant. Well, right, do you have pesa deposit na kuanga rumor. Court orders landlord to refund 11,500 deposit to tenant, and this happened because the court ordered for the court to pay the tenant to be paid
upon termination of the tenancy. Now, Magistrate Judith Omolo noted that claims by the landlord that he incurred expenses to do repairs. This is not unique.
You know, there's a time we had this conversation about the landlords and the tenants.
Yeah.
As per what the laws say, and I'm just paraphrasing, I'm not quoting word for word. Number one, when it comes to conversations around deposit, as long as a house is occupied, wear and tear is bound to happen.
It's bound to happen, whether it is your personal house.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is not supposed to be the responsibility of the tenant. But as we do it, as per what is prevailing, unaambiwangwa deposit yako nditatumiwa ku renovate and refurbish the house.
And exactly, that's what the court noted, that the repairs carried out could not be said to restore the house to the state it was before occupation, because there was no evidence presented showing the state of the house before occupation. So the court said that, you know, you have to refund this guy pesa yake 11,500, and there's some people who pay 3 months deposit.
Yes.
Of 50,000-60,000 shillings, and you pay maybe 150,000 shillings, and you know, by the time you're leaving,
yes,
you know, we are going to use 80K
to paint the house, and deposit is meant to be security, not money that is supposed to renovate that house. And then there was also the question about when you're supposed to pay the rent, the threshold that is allowed by the law.
Yeah.
Most landlords say by the 3rd or the 5th, but the law actually says by the 10th.
By the 10th.
So anything before that is considered harassment. And these are things that as tenants, most of us don't even know.
The question is, do you even know your right as a tenant? Because the landlord will always be right.
Yes.
I hope my landlord is not watching.
Usiende upate barua.
Good relationship between me and him. Good relationship. Good relationship.
But this goes to information we need to know.
I mean, information is good. Have that knowledge with you, so that you don't fall a victim of such circumstances. Well, there are some landlords who are genuine enough. You know, they do their due diligence whenever you're living. They come, they do the assessment, and said, this is what we're going to do. If you leave your house in order, they say thank you for the service, and you go to the next house
and you get your deposit back. All right. Now, as we close this particular segment, Vic, there's a piece here in regards to the new CCTV guidelines that are here have been captioned as set to strip Kenyans of privacy. So the policy, which is to be executed by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, says that the government will now have direct access to what you are doing in your office, hotel, gym and any other public facilities with the new CCTV policies. And monitoring this will allow the state to collect raw footage on quarterly and annual basis in all public facilities. And this is mostly meant to be used as with the multi-agency approach on when it comes to crime control and public safety, as in the recent cases we have seen detectives successfully using CCTV footage to track down criminals that have been involved in kidnappings, abductions, as well as murders and robbery with violence. And they actually attribute Kagongo's arrest to CCTV footage that was used to track her down. So if this guidelines are to sail through, the policy will be guiding the installation, operation and management of all CCTV footage, CCTV systems in public and private premises, and those who fail to observe this policy, they risk closure of their businesses, jail sentences or fines.
All right. Okay, so let's play some sports, shall we? Shuja target Ireland as they seek to finish Olympics on a high. And Shuja head coach Innocent Simiyu says that his charges will be seeking to finish the rugby competition on a high by beating Ireland in their final classification match. Now, Kenya recorded their first win of the Olympics, beating Japan 21-7 in the classification matches for 9-12, but Simiyu wants his charges to atone to the earlier defeat. That is as far as Shujaa is concerned. Now, his squad declared Kenyan boxers out of contention in Tokyo Olympics Games. Well, they did their best, and we still congratulate them for reaching that far and representing the country in the Olympics. Now, all Kenyan boxers are now out of the contention at the Tokyo Olympics Games after 2 more boxers lost their matches at the Kokugikan Arena in Tokyo on Tuesday. So that is as far as that is concerned. Doreen, the traffic is building up more so in the Nairobi CBD now that schools have reopened, and most people will say that some people say that you'll find in a family there are 3 vehicles, for the father, for the mom, and for the kids to school. So the traffic in Nairobi is eye-watering. Is it safe to say so?
Actually, we expect that heavy kind of traffic this week and next week because of that school reopening. But also not forgetting the fact that especially in Nairobi, there's a lot of ongoing roadworks in various roads here in the city's roads such as Ngong Road. What we're also looking at today, which some sections that have been closed, especially along Uhuru Highway. So all of this are leading to the heavy kind of traffic that we are seeing, especially here in Nairobi. And right now, we just want to shift to the other road because today I promised our viewers that we'll be looking at various roads, especially along Uhuru Highway, given the fact that it's one of those busy highways. Various roundabouts get to branch off from that specific highway. The first link, we looked at what was happening around Kenyatta Avenue, and this was simply because of what the Nairobi Metropolitan Services have been doing. In fact, NMS have just tried to ensure that the city of Nairobi actually becomes better, passable for pedestrians and also for those that are using vehicles, both public as well as private. So that's why we were checking what was happening along Kenyatta Avenue in regards to that and motorized transport system that was put in place and now already opened up to the public. We also checked what was happening, especially around University Way, simply because, again, some section of that road has been closed. And this is because of the expressway being termed as that road that is expected to shape and change how Nairobi City will be looking like. And right now, I want to take a quick look on what is happening around the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. This is actually that area. And this is how Nyayo Stadium roundabout looked like before the construction of the expressway began. Again, one of those busy roundabouts coming all the way from areas around Langata Road, get to branch off from actually Mombasa Road, leaving the roundabout, going through Uhuru Highway as you head over to areas around Haile Selassie, Bunyala roundabout, going all the way to Kenyatta Avenue, University Way, past going all the way to Wayaki Way, and on that section is actually where Lusaka Road also branches off from this particular roundabout. So clearly one of those busy roundabouts. And for the longest, if I can mention, is that areas actually around this area is also one of those places which has been closed. Like I mentioned, this is a file image of how the Nyayo Stadium roundabout looked like before the construction process began. And right now, this is how the area looks like. This is how the area looks like, and this is how the construction process is coming along. In fact, around this area there's been gridlock, heavy kind of traffic around this particular area simply because of that, and different routes have been given as alternative routes for those that apply this specific route going about their businesses, perhaps around Mombasa Road or even areas around Langata, Lusaka, even Uhuru Highway. And I'll be giving you those alternative routes in just a short while. So this has been ongoing since last year when the construction of the expressway began, and it's expected to continue up until early 2022 when the expressway construction is expected to come to a complete and the road already opened up to the public. So again, like I mentioned, some alternative routes have been given, but right now we just want to check the traffic flow around this area, try to see how all this construction process and the closure of some section of the road have resulted or impacted traffic altogether. Like I mentioned, it's one of those busy areas, busy roads, not forgetting the fact that also there's a lot of businesses in terms of companies, industries just along this particular route. So ultimately that altogether just just would lead to heavy kind of traffic along this route. And in addition, that construction, which is again a big factor of why we are seeing or why we would see this kind of heavy traffic along this route. So right now we just want to check the traffic flow around the area, try to see how all this construction process and the closure is affecting traffic on this specific route. And perhaps you can begin from the roundabout. This is the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Now, this is actually what I was talking about earlier, that it's one of those busy roads, and this is the reason as to why, because it gets to branch off to major roads as well as slip roads. Remember that slip roads are roads that branch off either to major roads or highways. And this particular roundabout just branching off from Langata Road, meaning actually comes all the way from Langata Road as you leave the roundabout, going all the way to Uhuru Highway, past Uhuru Highway as you head over to Bunyala roundabout, Kenyatta Avenue, Haile Selassie, going all the way past the university, going to Wayaki Way, and also branching off or coming from Lusaka Road as you leave areas around Enterprise Road on the other section of Mombasa Road, and again branching off from the major Mombasa Road. So this is actually, all this reason is what makes the Nyayo Stadium roundabout one of those busy roundabouts. And in addition, the construction that is still ongoing along this particular route. So right now, not so bad in terms of traffic, aside from all those reasons given as to what perhaps would lead to the heavy kind of traffic. Right now, not so bad. So again, it simply means if at all you're coming from areas around Mombasa Road or Langata Road and you're coming to the city center, this is still the best time for you to do that, because in as much as there's a bit of a traffic around the roundabout, just look at that, around the roundabout, and as much as there's a bit of a traffic there, but at least it's a manageable kind of traffic, and that is why we are seeing that orange color, which is a clear indicator of that. Where there's just heavy kind of traffic is as you leave Mombasa Road on that lane, actually just as you leave Mombasa Road coming to the city center, which is again what is expected, because we've also mentioned that the going back to school, that means this week and next week, this is basically what we expect to see on most of major roads, especially here in the Nairobi city, just because of that reason itself. And this actually goes all the way as you leave areas around the South Sea, also as you leave areas around GM, also coming all the way to the city center, and again specific to that lane that is coming to the CBD on the other section, or better still on the other lane, moving at a swift pace. And again, this is why we are seeing the cocktail of the different in colors there. So on this other lane, as you leave areas around Lusaka Road and also Uhuru Highway coming through Mombasa Road on that section, that means actually as you head over to the estates, moving at a very fast pace, no traffic at all. But also it's perhaps what is expected, because majorly on major roads, as you come to the estates in this early morning hour, you barely expect any kind of heavy traffic, simply because there's barely any kind of activities as you head over to the estates, unlike when you leave the estates coming to the city center. So this is why you are seeing that difference in color there, which is a clear indicator of just what I've mentioned there. And again, this continues trickling down all the way to areas around Langata Road in terms of moving at a swift pace, just picking from that particular lane as you head over to Langata Road, areas around Nairobi West, past the Madaraka roundabout, going all through the same area. Not forgetting the fact that also around Langata Road, there's some ongoing construction, especially around the Timor roundabout there. So this comes all the way past that particular area. So just as you leave the roundabout, again coming through Langata Road as well, not so bad. But where there's still some ongoing roadworks, we are seeing that kind of heavy traffic, as I mentioned, around the Timor roundabout, where there's that construction of the overpass and the underpass still underway. But past that area, still coming through as you head over to the city center, moving very swiftly, no traffic at all. And this continues all the way past the roundabout as you head over also to the city center there. So again, that's how it's looking like this morning in terms of traffic. So also ultimately means that we perhaps do not need to look at any alternative routes, at least as of now, because this is how it's looking like around the Nyayo Stadium roundabout at 8 minutes past 8 a.m.
Ala, Nissan Serena ndio hii, na unaweza kuwa wewe ndio tunapikia simu. Kodi ya Nissan Serena ni NS, alafu kisha kwenye amount ni 50 bob. Hii Nissan Serena tunakupatia na shilingi 50.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi, kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo nunca.
If Florentia revealed everything to my father, then that woman is very dangerous.
Yes, she's dangerous. Oh no, I can't do that, Ceci. Ivan will never come back. He will never forgive us. And that's why you should just forget him.
Where were you?
I just went to tell Juliana and Eloisa about what happened.
You were not supposed to tell anybody about what happened just yet. I wanted to wait until we had more information, Amaya.
Juliana also has the right to know what's going on. Mr. Mauro is her father as well.
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
What does this number mean to you? A pack leader? A winner? Or just a number? To us, it means freshness, boldness, vibrancy and heritage. That's why at KBC Channel 1, we make it easier for you to pop up your family entertainment to a fresh, exciting and colorful bouquet.
And welcome back. Glad you're still watching KBC Channel 1. Good morning, Kenya. On The Viewpoint today, let's talk about education. Specifically, let's talk about ECD. All of us know the importance of having that early childhood development in school. Without that, everything can go haywire. And we just have to continue with the discussion where we left it last week. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta is in the United Kingdom with his partners and colleagues for that bilateral talks, and as well as have the money to build this particular nation. And on that note, I'm glad to be joined once again by Gilbert Ngaira, who is from Their World Trust, right?
Yes.
And I have Dr. Teresa Ocharo Mwoma Ocharo from the Kenyatta University, all right, senior lecturer at the institution. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's an amazing day that we talked about this last week, and here we are.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's nice coming back again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good to talk about education because education is everything.
Sure.
Yes. The event is happening today.
Yes. Yes.
How are you feeling about it? To start with you, Gilbert.
How am I feeling about it?
Yes.
I think it's timely, owing to the fact that it's actually happening the same day kids are going back to school.
Yes.
It's quite a good moment for the country. So it's my prayer that we'll be able to mobilize enough resources to push the agenda of early childhood education in our schools in Kenya.
Yeah. And Madam, it's an amazing day as an ECD expert. How do you perceive it?
This is a great opportunity, especially now when our president and the other world leaders are meeting in the UK, others are meeting virtually to discuss education issues and how they can support learners from low-income countries, those who are not able to access. But what is more important is the fact that we are expecting the global leaders to make pledges on how they are going to support education in their countries, to be able to support as many learners as possible to access education. Yes.
And it comes at a time, you've put it correctly, when schools have reopened, and there is a lot of pressure now on parents to gain even the school fees. How is it going to change the whole narrative?
Yes, I know many parents are under pressure, especially now with COVID-19. You know, many things changed. We are in a crash program trying to make for the time lost last year because of COVID, and therefore children closed school for only 10 days. They are going back. Parents are required to buy the necessary education materials and also pay for their children fees to be in school. And I know there is a lot of pressure on the parents.
Yes.
It's my prayer that the teachers and the principals and the head teachers, wherever they are, they will be understanding to allow these parents to take their kids back to school as they look for resources to be able to support. But we are looking forward to having our president and the education team as a whole in our country coming up with measures and ways of ensuring that every child is supported to be in school by mobilizing resources that can support even those who are very needy.
Gilbert, your take on that?
Yeah, well, our interest on budgeting and making sure that every child is well taken care of, and owing to the fact that this is actually the responsibility of the government. Because when we look at our acts, Basic Education Act, for example, talks about free and compulsory education for all children.
Yes.
That means as a nation, we are mandated to mobilize resources that will ensure that this happens. And so that's why I say this is very timely, that our president is among top leaders, just to ensure that they mobilize enough resources that is going to guide us and ensure, hopefully, that all our children are in school.
How has the government, in terms of ECD, from their world perspective, taken steps to strengthen ECD in the country? Before I come to you,
I think it's yesterday I was just having a similar conversation. It is interesting because being a county function,
yes,
different counties are at different levels. I mean, as far as the implementation is concerned, different counties have different number of children that access early childhood education. And of course, when you're talking about budgeting, as we mentioned last week, you can only budget when you know how many people you're budgeting for.
Yes.
So then also, what other factors that you're supposed to be budgeting for per child? So if you look at that, statistics will be a bit different. You can't, for example, if you look at a county like Kwale County, which has done much better in terms of ensuring all factors are captured, compared to another county, say like Marakwet County, there'll be some discrepancies, but all in all, we can see some level of effort happening.
Yes.
Only that it just need to be coordinated. Yeah.
And Daktari,
yes,
do you share the same sentiments?
I want to say that government has put measures in place in terms of, in fact, by devolving the pre-primary education to the county government, is one measure of ensuring that that function has been taken to the grassroots level, where the governor and all the leadership at the county level can be able to put measures in place that meet, that are corresponding to the needs of that particular county. To me, that is a positive note. But now, ensuring that funding is channeled towards this pre-primary education in terms of ensuring that all children are supported to be in school is one area that really needs to be looked into, so that as many children are able to move to join and attend preschool. Yes.
Where are we as a country ever since it was established, ECD?
Kenya has made great strides in terms of early childhood. Early childhood in Kenya can be traced back to the 1940s when children, for the parents who were working in plantations, were being taken care of by women, getting a woman who could take care of these children. And we saw it grow in terms of coming up with the National Center for Early Childhood Education and District Center for Early Childhood Education to oversee the education activities in this country, and now moving to devolving it into the county level. So I think we have made great strides, which we should really appreciate. And in terms of teacher training, we have had many teachers who have been trained in certificate, in diploma, in degree, and who are out there to be able to support. So in that way, I think we have made great strides, and we are moving towards the right direction in terms of ensuring we have qualified personnel who can support, and having as many ECD centers. Like now we have around 46,000
that's a big number.
School pre-primary centers compared to that 2,000 primary schools. So we have really made a lot of strides in ensuring that we create spaces where children can go to school.
And Gilbert, this is quite important, because when she talks of that particular number, and it's the president who is on the front line to spearhead the whole of this process, how is it important for their world and us as citizens, seeing that the president actually is on the front line to look for money to facilitate ECD?
Actually, Victor, for one of the key things that we look at, and we work together with the policymakers on, is the rationale behind everything. As we mentioned last weekend, you can have money, and you're given money as a chunk, but then what? How do you allocate and reallocate all these finances? So our main discussion here is, according to the Global Partnership on Education, there's a percentage. All countries are required to put around 20% of their total, their national budget towards education as a whole. So then we are saying, out of this 20% that is now distributed towards these counties on education, we need to spearhead and ensure that we have at most 10% of that going towards early childhood education. And at the moment, Kenya is probably at around 1.8%, and we want to be at 10%. While at 10%, then we have enough resources to capture the holistic development of the child. So as our president is spearheading the whole summit, it is actually very important for the country, because those are the main asks, and this is not just for Kenya. This is 10% to all the nations that are being supported towards this cause.
Maybe if I may add on what he has mentioned. I think it's important to get it right here that the president, the Global Education Summit that is happening today and tomorrow is concerning education in general, education as a whole, not necessarily ECD. For early childhood. Here we want to focus on early childhood because this is an area that even you as a media, you have not given a lot of attention to educate the public about the importance of early childhood. So the summit is about mobilizing resources for education sector as a whole, and to be able to support the 90 countries that are in need of that kind of support, and to enable around 175 million boys and girls from low middle income countries to access education. So that is why us from the early childhood, we want now, yes, as these resources are being mobilized, as pledges are being made by global leaders and our president, these resources also should focus more on the early years. And why should we focus on the early years?
That's a question.
For example? Yes, very good. Last time we talked about this at length in terms of what happens. But one thing that we need to take note of is the fact that the early childhood years is when there is rapid brain development.
Exactly.
This is the time when the child's brain is rapidly developing. This is the time we really need to stimulate this child in terms of ensuring that there is good nutrition, there is good health for this child. There are play materials from the time of conception up to wherever, good nutrition for the mother. But after birth, good nutrition for the baby, but also now stimulating with play materials, providing that child a nurturing care environment in terms of good caregiving practices, in terms of good health, protecting the child from all sorts of harm, and ensuring that there are learning opportunities for this child. This is helping the child to be prepared to go to preschool. So like 90% of the child's brain has developed by the time that child is 5 years. So if we are able to stimulate him or her in terms of language, in terms of social skills and all that, we are helping that to the brain to be able to acquire all those skills. So it is a very critical area. So as we discuss about pre-primary education, it's important to go back and forth in terms of what happens before pre-primary and what happens during primary as pre-primary when we prepare them to primary school.
Gilbert, what has just awakened most of these 90 countries? Because when you look at the amount of money that is going to be raised, $5 billion, that is a lot of money that is going to be distributed across all these countries. Then it means that there is something that people have noticed that has been amiss somewhere, right?
Yes. You know, when you look at the development of a nation, we're as strong as how educated we are.
Absolutely.
And education takes us through various journeys to ensure that we get as much exposure globally as possible. And I think this is a gap that has been realized globally. And we have countries that still are lagging behind in that space. And that's why budget allocation, the resources are important to ensure that we are brought at par globally to compete with the rest of the world. So that is mostly the main push to ensure this happens.
Maybe to add on that.
Yes, please, go ahead.
The 90 countries are those countries that have 80% of their children not accessing education.
Not at 80%?
Yes, not accessing. Where you have 4 out of 5 children in those countries are not accessing education at the different levels. While when you compare them with where our high-income countries, you will have in high-income countries 4 out of 5. That is 80% are in school. So this is the motivation behind these 90 countries, so that these children are supported also. These 175 million children are supported to be able to join school at different levels from the lowest to the highest level. So that is the motivation behind supporting the 90
That's a worrying factor. That's a worrying factor there.
Yes, it is.
And even the money would be found, right? But how then will the government go ahead and out of its way to make sure that 4 out of 5 kids are in school, so that we be at par with the high earning countries in the world? Because implementation will be, getting the money is one thing, but now implementation and taking these kids to school is something quite different.
And that is why early childhood education is very important, because when you start it at the lowest level, you're giving us a chance, you're giving the nation a chance to have a very well exposed and educated child or a nation from an early stage. Because if we just come and pump it all into primary school, for example, and high school, we are still missing. we are still missing the next phase, which is the most important. That means by the time those ones in early childhood education get to join into primary, they are still not as strong as they are supposed to be. So if we have an allocation to ensure that these children get to that level, then we are getting closer towards that, filling that gap. Yeah.
Are we achieving the Vision 2030 in terms of education?
Very good. When we are thinking about the Vision 2030, think about the
because
adolescents.
we are in 2021.
Look at the think about the adolescents of 2030.
Yes.
Where are they? They are either 4 years or 5 or up to 9. Those are the adolescents we will have. What foundation are we giving them if we are saying 4 out of 5 children are not in school globally? What are we saying when we say in Kenya, for example, 23 to 25% of these children are not in school? Then it means in 2030, when we are thinking about Vision 2030, in 2030 we are going to have around 23 to 25% of adolescents who did not get a proper foundation, who will not be performing well maybe in their school. Because for children, research has shown that children who attend school, they stay school longer, they tend to complete their different levels of learning. Unlike children who did not go through preschool, they are likely to drop out somewhere in school or perform poorly, and which means the end product, when we move to the adult level, we will have a community of adults who cannot be productive in life. So in other words, what we are saying, investing in the early years by providing a proper foundation is helping the nation to build a firm workforce during that time when it comes. So let us look at the adolescents we are looking for in 2030. They are in between 4 years, 5 years, up to 9 years now, who will be maybe 13, 14, 15 then. And then if that goes, the next 10 years, they will be a workforce. So if we didn't give them a proper foundation, then we are not anticipating to have a stronger workforce then.
And if let's come back home. If you look at the Kenyan government, the government introduced free primary education. And right now, the CBC and the new curriculum, how are all these blended together to make sure that at the end of the day, once you're done with your schooling, you are a complete human being, for lack of a better word? You are fully baked. Because in school, people used to tell that you are half baked. Umetoka school, but umepita tu mtihani, so which means you are half baked. Yes.
The competency-based curriculum, in my view, is a good approach to ensuring that every child is supported to attain their full potential. Because what it means, if properly implemented, learners' potential will be identified in various, for example, this is a good artist, and he is supported that. This is a good musician. This is somebody who can be supported to become a very prominent musician. So in my view, it is the intentions are well. But now the challenge comes in terms of implementation.
Exactly.
Do we have, because it is a resource-intense curriculum, do we have all the requirements, the facilities that are required to enhance this potential, these talents in these children? Do all our schools have the resources that are required? That is an area that really needs to be looked into. But the competence-based curriculum, in my view, it's a good approach. It has good intentions, unlike the 844 system, where assessment is done based on cognition, and at the end of the cycle, at grade 7, grade 8 or class 8 or from 4. Many factors may make you not to get, you can't be an A student, but during exam maybe you were very sick, or your parents were struggling to pay for you, you missed out school, and then you perform poorly, then you are condemned. But with competence-based, formative assessment is done at different levels,
Yes.
which will account to the final grade, which will be out of maybe 60% of everything that you have done. Like, for example, the learners did their grade 3 assessment, they did their grade 4 assessment, which is having a certain percentage. So what they will do when they are in grade 6, I think they were supposed to do it next year,
Yes.
but because of COVID,
now,
and all this, maybe they will do it maybe next year or the other year, I'm not very sure. So it all accounts, which means even if you were very sick during exam or you did not do well, maybe whatever points you have accumulated from what you have been doing will add. Number 2, you will have been identified as a person who is good in music or as an artist and all that. And that potential in you is nurtured by the teachers, by the parents, by the community, so that by the end of the day, even if you don't get that A, you have this skill and you will move to a technical college and you will be able to pursue that, and you become a very useful person in this
I'll come back to you on that, because you've raised a very important point in terms of talent nurturing and all that. But Gilbert, even as the government is moving around to look for money to boost the education sector, one thing we can never run away from: one, she's talked about implementation. And 2, corruption.
Yes.
I mean, you go to schools, money is disbursed, and you find that it was not channeled to the intended purposes. How are we going to slay the whole of this giant and say we are all clean and now we can run a smooth education system?
You know, Victor, everyone in the nation, both leaders and civilians, have a responsibility towards each other. And when you're elected as a leader in charge of a county, a constituency, a ward, all that, you're actually entitled to offer the best to the people that have entrusted you with that position. Our role is to mobilize and ensure that we have enough resources to have this, to have our children get the best quality. The role of the leaders, the local leaders, the politicians and the rest is purely to ensure that has happened. So when we talk of corruption and all other factors that come around, it actually goes down to that individual leader that he's entrusted by the people to ensure that this happens. Because if we are talking of Vision 2030, and we have leaders that are very strong on the Vision 2030, for example, like our good governor Makueni, Professor Kivutha Kibwana. If you look at what he's been able to do with the little resources that has been provided, you'll be amazed. And that actually tells us a lot can be done. If you look at what Kwale County has done, a lot can be done. So it's just an issue of the leadership itself. Whoever is at the top and entrusted by the rest of the people to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Sometimes they say that little is always more, depending on how you look at it.
Exactly.
You can decide and say that a glass is half empty or half full. Depends on how we look at it. Madam, can we just take a break before we come back, and then you'll just jump in after the break. We pay a little bit. Okay, so we'll be right back. Today is Matters Education. Kids are back to school. Parents are struggling to get that school fees, but the president is also out there looking for the money to make sure that we are all in school. We'll be right back after this break.
Sorry, my lady, but we can't delay, as she is very ill now. I'd be punished otherwise. My lady.
You were telling me you found evidence, but the servant died. So you can't actually prove that Consort Xiao did it, am I right?
Yes.
Majesty, in my opinion, it was definitely not Consort Xiao.
Oh?
Ninja, just what do you want? Let go of me!
Have a child soon.
After tonight, you'll be mine forever.
愿风伴吹散沉香，将门轻掩上。In my shoes with some bright color socks. Time out, but me nah go wear no flip flops. Cause none now me some mood. Me just a walk and a move. Come make we rock and groove. Hey.